Guilty. All counts.
Bye-bye.
The Alexander brothers shook their heads no as the verdict was read. And there they are. These three men who may not know, the Alexander brothers, they're all Israeli Jewish Zionists living in Miami for many years and New York. And here's the thing. Don't move yet, Colin. You're going too fast. I'll let you know. These three men were involved in a real estate deal with, it wasn't, I don't know if it was Ray Dalio, but it was a very rich person. When they were in their early 20s, these guys somehow made millions of dollars on selling what at the time was the most expensive piece of real estate in New York City, which I think it was basically two duplexes being put together, and the amount was about $57 million. It was absolutely unheard of. Well, I know that's very important to point out.
Well, because the other two are fairly good looking. So I'm just looking at it, I'm just looking at the picture. Yeah, the guy in the middle has like a half his head is forehead, half his face is forehead.
Well,
he's not the attractive brother. Let's say that. Of the three, he's not the attractive brother.
Well, no, the one in the middle is clearly the inbred of the family. So, he's the one that, the gene pool.
I don't know. It's not good.
But we're going to read to you now, if you want to scroll down, Colin, exactly who these guys are and what they've been up to. The Alexander brothers were found guilty of sex trafficking by a federal jury in Manhattan. Much better that it was charged in Manhattan than in Miami.
Oh,
jury
yes.
Heard from 10 rape accusers who tearfully described being drugged and physically overcome. The three wealthy siblings, two of whom sold luxury real estate, face up to life in prison, and they
Goodbye.
And they will.
Goodbye. Don't let that. Let me tell you, those guys, they better get themselves some soap on a rope. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh, they got to.
They're not going to do well. Those boys are not going to do well.
They got some pretty mouths over there.
They're not going to do well on the inside.
They are going to be absolutely torn up in more ways than one when they get there.
Oh, yeah.
A trio of wealthy brothers found guilty of federal sex trafficking charges in Manhattan on Monday in a grand slam verdict, convicting them of each count they faced in a 10-count indictment.
Ooh. Yes, I agree, Henry. They're going to be very popular. The outside two are attractive, but yeah, they're going to be very popular.
The jury deliberated listen, they're not just going to be, they're not going to just be popular. They're not just going to be popular because they are pretty boys. Remember this, who gets it the worst in prison? Rapists and child molesters. They are
and bad cops.
Well, that would be number 3. But they're going to get theirs. And the fact that they're Israelis, trust me, the word's going out. The jury deliberated for 3 days before announcing a verdict for former luxury real estate brokers Tal Alexander and Oren Alexander, as well as for Oren's twin, Alon Alexander, a former executive.
Alon.
Whatever. Alon. That's what I said.
Okay.
A former executive in his parents' private security firm. Gee, I wonder what that has to do with. That's probably
nothing to see here with the
misogyny there. Definitely not. And definitely not connected to Israel either. The three brothers sat at the defense tables, shaking their heads no as the verdict was read. What? No, you know why they were? And Jen, could you please explain to the audience why these men reacted the way that they did?
Well, they were probably convinced that they were going to walk. So my thought is, whoever was supposed to pay off the judge or figure out how to control the jury or do that, a lot of fail-safes have fallen through in regard to what they had going on to try to keep themselves out of prison. So I don't know. I think shock that none of their fail safes worked and they were not able to control the situation financially.
I agree with you 1,000%. I don't think it's a question of them being like, no, we didn't do this. It was, we've never
I
been.
can't believe we're going to pay for it. Oh,
How
yeah.
are we gonna, we've never had to pay for anything in our lives. What the hell is this?
Well, there's no remorse. You're
No.
not going to get any remorse. And
Not
if it was, it would be completely fabricated.
If anything, they're pissed off. Scroll down.
Yeah. They're mad that they didn't get, they're mad that they're being held accountable. I've said it before. I'll continue to say it. There are no more entitled people on the planet than Israelis. There aren't. You want me? Veruca Salt would not compete with a typical Israeli. Like, seriously. So, yeah, they can't believe that this is like the nerve of the world to not serve them. That's why they're shaking their heads.
Colin, please scroll. And as their sons were led out of the courtroom, their parents bowed their heads, then hugged briefly. And the audience says, Elon's wife held her head in her hand in her seat beside them. Sentencing was set for August 6th for each defendant.
So, attention, Elon's wife. Your husband's a rapist.
Your
husband's a rapist. Okay, yeah, onward.
Might want to also get yourself checked for any STDs as well.
I would too. Yeah, that's a good point too. I would definitely get yourself checked out.
Any sex trafficking conviction, including for the top count of sex trafficking conspiracy, carries a potential maximum sentence of life in prison.
Wow.
They got 10 counts. They are going to prison for the rest of their lives. As they should.
Unless they get Epstein and disappear to Epstein's Island. But in theory, this is first of all, these boys aren't going to last. No matter, let's say hypothetically that they each got 20 years, right? They're not making it that long in prison. Those boys can't live in. Are you kidding me?
Not a chance. Not with the life that
anything long, honestly, for these boys, anything longer than a year, I don't know they'll survive it anyway. But they should get life. They should get life.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Aaron Hernandez, I'm convinced, committed suicide, because he went from living the high life in the NFL to being in federal prison for the rest of his life.
Exactly.
It's like, psychologically you break. And
that's
those guys, considering the life that they were living a life of a professional athlete times 10. That's what they were living.
And now they're going to be some 300-pound guy named Tiny's bitches.
They're going to be.
That's what they're going to be now. Oh, well.
The verdict follows a 5-week trial in which prosecutors called 10 rape accusers to testify, none of whom had reported their incidents to police. I wonder why.
Yeah, this is the fact, right? See, and that is what I mean when I say Epstein on his island, or Brett Ratner, or, any of these other people that seem to be able to find safe haven in pedophilia land of Ziohel.
Here comes the creme a la creme. The women gave compelling, sometimes tearful testimony about attacks in Lux locations in Manhattan, the Hamptons, Aspen, and Tel Aviv. Stretching back to 2008, when the brothers were in their early 20s. Oh, they learned young. They said the brothers used false promises of after parties or fun weekend getaways to lure them into the worst experiences of their lives, being sexually violated through violence or a drugged drink.
See, these boys were raised by a mom and a dad who never held them accountable for anything. They had no chores, no responsibility. Their lives have been just one big gift. And their parents created these monsters. And when you look at a lot of the people in Israel, that level of entitlement, it's the same thing. They've raised monsters.
When you consider the percentage of the population that's either narcissistic, sociopathic, or psychopathic, and you cluster that into a culture of wealth and decadence that does not believe in any adherence to rules, regulations.
The rules do not apply to them.
No, they're chosen. It's the Jews.
But see, with these guys, it's even much more different than that, because this is much more of an elitist and a class thing in terms of their level of entitlement than it is. It has nothing to do with that they're Jewish. They're probably not even practicing Jews.
Absolutely not.
Right. So this has nothing to do with their level of entitlement. Isn't a Jewish thing. Their level of entitlement is an Israeli thing.
Now, listen, do I think that these little Jewish boys would have Hanukkah and Passover Seder? Yes, that's probably the extent.
So did I. And I was raised by hippie atheists. So
yeah. That's the extent. Like going to synagogue? No. 2 women told jurors that they were drugged and then attacked by 2 of the brothers at the same time. Oh, so these guys are incestuous brothers too. Isn't that sweet? One said the twins took turns raping her inside a cruise ship cabin in 2012. The other said she was attacked by Tal and Elon Alexander and 2 other men. So this was a gang rape situation in the bedroom of a Southampton vacation home in 2009 when she was 16 years old. And you wonder why they didn't go to the police. Yeah. Great. I was wondering why they hated me, the woman recalled thinking as she fell in and out of consciousness on a bed. All 10 women told jurors in the hours and days after they were attacked, shame and fear kept them from telling anyone but their closest friends.
And we all know that's how it goes. We know that. We all know that. Again, you will not meet an adult woman that has not been violated. You won't. We've all been violated. It's a spectrum. I've never been violated to that degree of the spectrum, but we've all been violated. And once you've been violated, then you see how we've all been violated. So yes, and you feel ashamed and you feel embarrassed and you feel scared and you feel confused and you question whether you may have done something. And yes, that's all natural.
And can we just address for the second that if you're putting the dates up here, these guys, when they did this, were in their mid to late 20s, and this was a 16-year-old. Can we just for a second address where the issue of child rape comes into play and how this is something that gets glossed over? Yes, she's physically developed, but she's still a child.
It's a child.
No getting around this. And don't think for a second that they don't target young women. I'm sure she was attractive, but when they found out that she was 16, oh, she's naive. She doesn't know. She'll totally be down for it. These are psychopaths. Like, these are psychotic.
And also a lot of these men have absolutely no real confidence and a lot of insecurity and have to overcompensate, which is why they go at victims that are so vulnerable. Correct. Those kinds of people, they don't have the confidence to be with adult women. They don't obviously feel comfortable with women of their age. They feel threatened by that. So they have to be with people that they can manhandle, control, drug, and otherwise manipulate, which is often you're capable of doing with younger people. That's what makes them vulnerable. So yeah, it's disgusting.
Only when they saw that the brothers were being sued and arrested over allegations like their own did they find the courage to step forward, the women, because that's usually how it happens. So when there's always something to be said for when there's one accuser, one situation. But let me assure you, ladies and gentlemen, when a man or men are accused of sexual violence by one woman and then it turns into dozens of women, that person is guilty of sin. And no matter how many ways you try to whitewash it, the reason that he's guilty is because all of those stories are ones that have been held back for years, and someone gave them the courage to say, if you can do it, I can do it too. And that's generally how it works. And to suggest that it's only 10 rape situations that have been brought forward, trust me when I tell you, you could probably times it by 10.
Yes.
That's
for every rat you see, there's 50 that you don't. And I absolutely, if they have 10 people testifying,
there's at least
they had hundreds of witnesses and testimony that they had to go through and talk to people and find out who would be the most capable and credible witnesses to testify for whatever reasons. But yes, there were many, many. And yes, I know there are boys that are in this as well that get caught up in all these trafficking. It is absolutely also boys get violated and men do get violated. I wasn't suggesting they don't. I just think you have a better chance of finding an adult man that has not been violated than ever finding an adult woman that has not been violated.
Sure.
Like, it's just, I don't know an adult woman that hasn't been violated. I've never met one.
Only when they saw, because this feels bigger than me, one accuser explained of coming forward now, 14 years after she said she was drugged and raped at age 20 after a party at the Manhattan penthouse of actors as Zac Efron. I'm 34 now, and I know who I am, and I want someone to be held accountable for what happened to me. Defense lawyers maintained that any sex was consensual, of course they did, and that the accusations were the product of regret and faulty memories. Hey, what do you call 1,000 lawyers chained together at the bottom of the ocean?
A good start, I know.
They pointed to inconsistencies about timing and the women's failure to take drug tests or report my goodness, or report the incidents to law enforcement, and noted that many of the women communicated with the brothers. The defense also challenged whether the accounts the women described added up to sex trafficking, the charge behind half the counts in the 10-count indictment.
Yeah, you see how it still comes back to whether or not the women were on drugs? I don't care if they were so high. I don't care if they were on an 8-ball of coke. I don't care. I don't care if they were running down the street naked, high on an 8-ball of coke. That does not justify assaulting them. You see that, but you see how they do that? They turn it around on the victim. What did she do? What did they do to incur this? Yeah, that's not how this is going to work.
People like Megyn Kelly.
No, I know. And you know what? That is why it freaks me out that she has a daughter. It's disgusting. Well,
because
I hope that nothing happens to her daughter where she wants to claim that her daughter was somehow a vulnerable person or somehow taken advantage of, because I'm just going to come out and say, well, if she was at least 15, she's an adult, Megyn.
Well, that's also the problem that I think a lot of people forget about this issue. One of the reasons why a lot of women don't come out is because women like Megyn Kelly will often side with the man, saying that she was asking for it or that this didn't actually happen. And
because those are white women of the patriarchy. Those are the white women that uphold the patriarchy, that keep the rest of us women in the same position that we've been in, always subjugated. And that's because of white women like Megyn Kelly and their bullshit. Honestly, she's gross and has very bad extensions. All right, go on with this.
To convict on sex trafficking, jurors needed to find that the brothers used force, fraud, or coercion, including by secretly drugging drinks, to cause a commercial sex act, defined as sex in return for something of value. Prosecutors said that the something of value was the brothers' promise of a beach weekend at a Hamptons mansion, or an invite to go from a club to a hotel room for a fun after party. I'd say that qualifies. Defense lawyers countered that what was described in testimony was not sex trafficking because, in their view, there was no quid pro quo relationship proven between the lure, the something of value, and the alleged sex.
All these young girls were just jumping for joy to just be with these guys.
Sure. Say what you want. Prostitution's the oldest profession. And if women want to have sex in exchange for goods and services, that's their prerogative. That's my libertarian side saying, if it's not hurting anybody.
Well, yeah, I don't care about any of that. None of that bothers me. Well, all that matters is that if they didn't agree to it, which no woman is going to come forward and put her whole life on display for something that isn't true like that. That's what people say. So when they say it, short of you coming up with some sort of psych eval that says they're completely delusional, I'm going to believe them. I'm going to believe them every single time. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, because that is where I will give grace. See that? Because empirical evidence tells me that they're telling the truth. So
I concur. Defense lawyers countered that what was described in testimony was not sex trafficking because, in their view, there was no quid pro quo. So the commerce, the thing of value, must be a result of the sex, argued. Mark this, no pun intended, mark this attorney down, Mark Agnifilo.
I wonder if that's Karen's spouse.
Could be.
She's a defense lawyer. He's a defense lawyer, so it could be Karen.
Is that the same name?
Yeah, that's her. Well, her last name is hyphenated, but yeah.
Sure, why not?
I wonder if that guy, somebody look up and see if this Mark Agnifilio is
Colin, where are you?
Is connected to Karen, who's representing Luigi Mangione.
In July, Agnifilo won a partial acquittal in another high-profile Manhattan sex trafficking case, that of entertainment and lifestyle entre. So you can see what a dog shit person he is. He represents people like Diddy. So he's
okay.
into
First of all, don't go after the lawyer. Okay. Everybody's entitled to a vigorous defense. And as someone who did criminal defense, even knowing people have done crimes, don't go after the lawyer. You want people to be able to fairly represent Luigi Mangione. You want him to have a fair trial, then everybody gets a fair trial. Do not go after the lawyer.
Fair enough. In that trial, Agnifilo similarly argued that the federal sex trafficking statute was being stretched beyond its original purpose of protecting sex workers. Combs was also acquitted of racketeering. He was convicted of transporting for purposes of prostitution and is serving a 4-year prison term. Hopefully he's getting his.
That's I don't know. That would be interesting. I don't know if he might have some level of protection. Who knows?
These men are one of many. Much like I said years ago when it came to Bernie Madoff, if you think he's the only person who's running a Ponzi scheme, he just ran it to such a gargantuan level, and he did it amongst the Zionist billionaire class. And that's why he had to pay. You see, these things happen all the time. These types of crimes, these types of activities amongst this class of people happens a lot.
The Epstein class. It's the Epstein class. And I'm so thankful. And I've never met him personally, but I love Professor Morandi, and he's the one who I started hearing that from. And apparently in Iran, that's what they're calling it. So yes, Iran, thank you for creating that. I love it. The Epstein class, correct.